Good morning and welcome to today's panel discussion on robots and cobots, integrating automation into the EMS factory. Labour shortages are driving manufacturing towards more automation on the factory floor, and here to discuss that today I have three industry experts that are working in that area. To my extreme left we have Richard Osborne from ViTrox Americas. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you, Trevor.
Next to him we have Michael McHale, who's President and CEO of a company called PSA, which is one of the largest integrators of robotics in USA.
Thanks for having me, Trevor.
Okay. And then to my immediate left we have Ivan Romo, who's the President of SmartSol, which also integrates a lot of robotics and automation into factories, especially in Mexico, but also increasingly up here in the USA as well.
That's correct. Thanks for the invitation, Trevor. Pleasure to be again with you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get right into it. I'll start off with my first question, and let's just start on the end. How can collaborative robots or cobots enhance efficiency and flexibility in electronics manufacturing compared to traditional industrial robots?
So, thank you again, Trevor. The collaborative robot provides a lot of flexibility from our perspective with inspection. And one of the biggest things we're seeing is it's allowing, as you alluded to, there's challenges with labor initially, and it's allowing what the manual inspection that is still very, very prevalent in our industry. It allows those operators to be placed elsewhere in the factory and be used in a much more efficient manner. Their skill sets can be used elsewhere. I will say, however, that we are seeing a need for it quite a bit in high volume manufacturing. In particular, we have a couple of automotive customers that are continuing to increase their footprint with our systems for inspection. And the collaborative robot allows a lot more flexibility, obviously, than what your traditional AOI provides. Traditional AOI is a top-down view. Even though so many of them have side-angle cameras, they still cannot get in and look 90 degrees into a board for edge connectors, as an example. So daughter boards, if there's daughter boards, the collaborative robot allows you to come in and get a view underneath the daughter board on the main board. So a lot of flexibility is offered with the system.
It does. It offers a lot of flexibility, but on the other hand, is there a trade-off with speed compared to the static systems?
There can be, and from our perspective, we also offer the same inspection capability, but with an industrial robot. Right. The industrial robot, depending on the application, can be 50 to 80% faster. Mm-hmm. One of the initial benefit that we saw with the collaborative robot was no need for an exterior safety curtain or safety mechanism. Mm-hmm. However, we're finding that more and more manufacturers are mandating that you have to have that, and therefore transitioning to an industrial robot isn't really much of an issue.
Right. Michael, you must go up against both requirements in the integrations that you're doing, using industrial robots against using cobots or more flexible systems. What's your view on it?
Yeah, I think, on a granular level, the cobots work good in lower volume, where you need a lot of interaction around the robot. But when you're looking for high throughput, the industrial robot's much better. I think as the industry changes, and like Richard alluded, a lot of the customers we're seeing are mandating more safety, because there are incidents with punctures or pokes or things with the collaborative robot that's kind of pushes us into an industrial robot setup. But there's a lot of safety equipment that's hitting the market that allows an industrial robot to work a little more like a collaborative robot.
Yep.
just slows the speed downs as you approach. We also find the integration of some of the other industrial products around the industrial robot to be a little bit easier and faster. But I think as time changes, AI and smart IoT connections into the robot will help drive more applications for collaborative robots.
Right, yeah. Now, I've seen things like light curtains and things like that, which make it easier to, from a safety point of view, if anybody encroaches that area, it immediately stops and that type of thing.
We've also done smart mats, where as you approach the robot will go from a high speed to a low speed as you get closer and approach. We've had issues with the Fortune 500 or 1,000 safety officers allowing that in a lot of applications, but we have done a bunch of those installs. They are very successful, but the safety aspects of somebody running into a cell and getting hit by a robot sometimes outweighs the opportunity. I also think the collaborative robot in most industry applications are a little more approachable for the average employee than something that's in a big giant cage and looks really complicated and really deadly if you get hit. It's approachable and it's adapted a little better into the industry.
Yes, okay. Ivan, you represent a number of different suppliers of different types of cobots and robots. I mean, what is your view on this?
Well, Trevor, in the electronic assembly industry, there is robots since the beginning. I mean, any single machine that we see here in this show has a Cartesian or gantry robot.
Yeah.
So now some of the operations, some small assemblies into the SMT are moving into a specific robotic platform. Of course, when you talk about the speed for small pieces, the Delta robot are the faster and more precise. But if you want to collaborate with the people, then it's where the Cobot is winning a very important market share. Because the Cobot, for example, the ones that we distribute can go from 700 millimeters up to 1.9 meters reach. The payload, it goes to 5 kilograms up to 30 kilograms. And the speed is also no longer a constraint because with the newest motors, it can almost match the speed for some other type of robots. Some of the good things that the cobots are bringing to the industry is the embedded vision systems and the artificial intelligence that you don't need to work with third parties to add the cameras, to add the software to inspect. Now, the newest robots are all in one. You only turn on or turn off the functions, and it's very easy to inspect with a camera of 5 megapixels that is included in the standard robot, or you can add up to 2 external cameras with any definition or to be integrated into the current robot software to do the inspections. So as Richard said, it's easier and faster to do an implementation, for example, for inspections with a cobot with single camera instead to have a different camera model. So you can improve the efficiency of the labor, but also you can save a lot of money in the hardware using a single inspection module for a very complex assemblies.
Well, that kind of answers my second question, because I was going to ask how easy it is to integrate some of these into a new line. But if the inspection, as you say, and these other components are integrated into the robot or cobot unit, then it just makes it a lot easier to bring it in. Michael, have you got anything you want to add to that in terms of integrating a new system into a line?
Yeah, I think to jump on what Ivan was talking about, we're finding a lot more integratable products into the robot systems, a lot more drag and drop, which speeds up our integration, lowers our labor costs. The one thing I would advise any industry or company looking to automate is don't necessarily look for the hardest thing to automate. Look for kind of the low-hanging fruit and move to the hardest thing. When we do automation assessments for companies, we'll look at all your possible opportunities to automate, and then look at the items that have the best ROIs, maybe the easiest to integrate, versus these really hard, complex items that are still better as a human to operate than as a robot. And I think if you look at some of the mistakes like Tesla's made, they've installed robot systems and pulled them out because the integration of the robots was just too hard compared to the human.
Right. Well, that's interesting because, I mean, Elon is, of course, meant to be rumoured to be bringing in a lot of his humanoid robots into the factory, into the Tesla factories this year. What is your view on that? Because that's a different type of robot. I mean, it's actually literally moving around using artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I think you're going to see adoption for certain things, possibly replacing of fork trucks or AGVs. You know, a lot of large-scale distribution companies are looking to remove fork trucks from their operation because of the danger of the fork trucks, the cost of the fork trucks. So they're looking for alternative ways of doing that. Maybe even possibly trying to get to forklift-less factories and forklift-less warehouses, which is not inherently easy. So that, you know, we have a couple of customers looking into the humanoids. They still think some of that technology is a little ways away, but in the next decade, the technology will be there.
I think it's going to be difficult to replace a forklift truck with a humanoid because, I mean, forklifts typically are lifting up heights, you know, in these large racks and things like that.
I mean, we've been working and have a couple applications where we've done AGV fork trucks. So you remove the human element, and then there's no human element inside of that area. But also AGVs, it's really the transportation from one location in a factory to another location in a factory. You know, call it Industry 5.0, of where that would have typically been a fork truck, now would be an AGV, taking a box, a pallet, or some sort of product to a new location. And then that way you don't have the delays of a human or a brake or a fork truck breaking down or a recharging opportunity. That will take, I think the adoption of that will happen very quickly.
Right, okay. So, Richard, have you got any views on integrating these systems into an automatic line?
Yeah, so when you keep in mind that ViTrox is focused strictly on inspection, and inspection anywhere in the factory, really, perhaps we're a little bit more pinpointed in our robotic solution. So one of the things, as an example, that we're introducing here at this show is a 3D AOI head on a 6-axis robot. So the integration for us is very seamless. Many of our customers are already experienced with our software, and it's been very seamless, frankly. As Michael said earlier, though, I think was a very valid point, and is good for people to take into consideration. We ran into this when we first brought the machine out, that everybody was looking at it going, wow, it can inspect this, it can do this, it can do that, all these things, and it really overcomplicated what was going on. And when they started parsing that down to maybe 4 to 6 items, that's when the real aha moment occurred, and they're like, wow, this really can be beneficial to us. So I think that was a very good point you brought up.
Okay. So I think the next iteration of these machines is going to be to really introduce AI in a more meaningful way. How do you think that's going to change the way that we can work with robots and cobots?
Yes, absolutely. Now it's more easy to get the information and to take decision based on the data collected. So most of the systems requires kind of a AI server to process at high speed that information to take the conclusions of the process. And I mean, the robots are already coming with that intelligence. Just it's very easy to implement an operation with a cobot, having vision, having AI, and you can finish an application in less than 30 minutes.
Yes.
And it's very easy to relocate that unit, that robot, to do a different job, and then within another 30 minutes, you can create a new process. And if, for example, the robots that we have here in our booth, we just turn it on, and it was plug and play, because the robot by itself identify where is the location of the process, and they do the alignment in an automatic way. So we never do an adjustment of the robots in the exhibitions. because we did that in the office. We move in a truck 2 days to get here, and just turn it on, and it's ready to operate. So that is the best things about having the intelligence into the robot. And as they say, I mean, it's better to start with a very simple operations, but the critical situation here is the material flow. How the material is being fed into that cell, and what is going to be the next step with that material. Because if we want to remove the touching of the products, then the priority is to take care of the material flows. So that level of automation needs to be also in the warehouse with the AGVs and with the cobot integrated into the AGVs. And of course, there are some drones now that are being used in the warehouse to do the cycling counting of the materials, or to define what is going to be the next kit. You also can use the drones.
Yeah. So, I mean, Michael, AI is going to make them easier to program and is going to widen the number of applications you can use with a single system.
Yeah, we've been integrating AI-based vision systems now for about 4 years, and just in the past 4 years, to see how the random ability for a camera to locate a product and then adjust a robot without any programming is really where we see the benefits of AI. So that AI coming into a neural network and being able to neural network and learn from the images that it's taking.
Right.
So if it's trying to pick something up where the bag or the box might be rotated, the robot will automatically adjust and handle any pitch or yaw and locations. Those systems are getting much more intuitive. The programming 4 years ago versus today is a lot less to be able to start generating that neural network. We used to have, in the first couple of systems, we'd have a couple thousand hours of programming to train a neural network. But now, as it's getting smarter, that's really condensing in time. We're seeing a lot of applications now that we can take care of that we weren't able to do 4 or 5 years ago. That's only going to get better, faster, and more accurate. Where you might have pick rates approaching robot speed, but the accuracy might be in the 99 percentile, where right now it's 93, 94%. That will get near 100% over time.
Okay. Any plans to build more intelligence into your systems, Richard?
Yeah, we're actually doing it today. So, again, as we're an inspection company, we've been one of the leaders in the AI development. We have an entire team that is dedicated just on AI development for AOI and AXI, and we are now implementing that into the robotic inspection solutions that we have. So there's really two primary benefits to that. The first is the decreased effort for programming. It's very, very fast to program an inspection of an entire printed circuit board from an AOI perspective. But then one of the real benefits that's coming as a result of the implementation with the robotic inspection systems is a reduction in false calls. False calls are still what eats up the majority of your labor time, and AI is allowing that reduction to take place and continue to reduce.
Yeah, okay. Ivan, I mean, there's lots of different ways of using robotic systems. What about soldering robots? Doing point-to-point soldering, that type of thing. Is there a value in that, and what sort of applications would you use that in?
As you know, we have different ways to do soldering.
Yeah.
So in the selective liquid soldering,
Yeah.
the wire robotic soldering using Cartesian robots. It can be with servos or with stepped motors. It depends on the customer requirement. But if we can add also laser soldering instead of regular hot iron soldering. But the cobot is being used also to do big metal soldering or welding. And we have several applications with the regular wire soldering with the cobot. Because if the assembly, again, needs to be approach in a different angles, different positions,
Yeah.
the Cartesian has some limitations. So the cobot can do the job easily, and again, the programming for that unit is going to take maybe 20 minutes.
Okay. Question for you, Michael. What role can robotics and cobots take in reducing e-waste, for example, in a factory?
Well, I think, to jump on something that Richard was talking about, part of the AI and the data collection and being able to process large amounts of data is to start becoming predictive into where are you seeing failures, how do you predict that failure, and how to reduce the waste.
Right.
In the past, something fails and it's a person filling out a sheet, where's that data go, how are you analyzing the data? So the processing of the data will be just as important as the vision systems, because the vision's great, but to be able to pull that vision back into a database and having the database run through an LLM to start chasing, okay, where was my problems over time? How many problems am I having? To start pinpointing where that waste is. So that e-waste it's e-waste and people waste. It's the time, the energy to do that activity. The processing and the data will become the most valuable part of these systems over time. Predictively knowing where your problems are, where your problems will be, will reduce your e-waste.
Yeah, I agree entirely. Anything you want to add to that, Richard?
No, I think Michael covered that pretty well. I think the long run benefit to all of this is going to be the predictive capability.
Predictive maintenance, predictive failures or that sort of thing. And we're also moving into a different world as well, because we're moving into the circular economy, where they're starting to recycle a lot of these boards and things like that, which will bring in another level of automation. So any final points you want to make on the robotics debate?
Well, just that we are not talking about what is going to be the future. We are talking about what is the current situation.
Yeah.
And of course, if you visit some of the largest EMS that are right now in Mexico, you see that every single SMT and backend line are coming with 20, 30 robots. So that means that the current labor is being, or the use of the labor is being improved to add more value-added activities for the people.
Right.
So, and then the skills for the people around the line needs to be better to keep that fully automated line running. So it's very good news for the industry that is not depending of the skills of the operator, it's depending on how well maintenance is the complete assembly line.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I mean, because they say that these robots and cobots are there to assist the operators. They're not there to replace their jobs. But we've got a situation where Foxconn has just opened its sixth lights out factory in Vietnam, where basically there's still obviously a lot of operators there working in the back room, monitoring these systems. But I mean, there's fewer people on the factory floor. Do you think where do you see it going, Michael?
I definitely see over time a lot more lights out manufacturing. I think it goes back to if you're not investing in your business or investing in technology, you're going to be left behind.
Right.
And the earlier adopters or the faster adopters will be the one that win. They win over time. I think if you're not taking the time to learn and advance your own business's knowledge set, if you look at what Richard's working on, if you're not trying to analyze that data to make your business better, to reduce your labor, your waste, and increase your throughput, somebody will outpace you.
Yeah, I think in every form of business that's the same, isn't it? You've got to keep reinventing yourself. You can't stand still. That's for sure. That's for sure. Anyway, gentlemen, it's been a great debate. Lots of great input. I want to thank you all. Richard Osborne from ViTrox, Michael McHale from PSA, and of course Ivan Rommel from SmartSaw. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking part today, and thank you to our audience for watching.